UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the United Federation of Podcast Network. I'm your host for today, Justin, and joining me are my co-hosts Brandon and Chrissie. So, Chrissie, who the hell are you, and what's with that costume you have on right now?
Well, I'm your co-host, Chrissie, and this is a t-shirt, so I don't know. It's not much of a costume, but it's all right.
Oh, yeah, thanks for not playing along. Okay, fine.
It's not a Starfleet uniform, so it is a costume, see? I'm out of uniform.
I wanted to see if I could just catch you, if I could surprise you, because I tried a different opening before we were able to start. Anyway.
You did surprise me.
Good that you're doing well. So, Brandon, I can always rely on you for something witty. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing just marvelous. You know what? I love this bowl of mashed potatoes I got in front of me here. I'm just going to play with it while we're talking here. So if you hear any like squishy sounds and whatnot, it's just my fingers going in the mashed potatoes, okay?
That's okay. We totally respect your mashed potato relationship. No problem.
I totally thought he was going to build like a Devil's Tower
monument.
That was like in Close Encounters. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It was very sensual.
They did reference another Spielberg movie, though.
Did they?
They did, yeah. And we'll get into that. I'm sure.
If I missed that.
Okay, but listeners can tell we have a guest on. We'll introduce him in a moment. But before we get started, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons who make our show possible, particularly our associate producer, David Willett, who has joined me on the list of associate producers for the program. Listeners, we'd love to add your name to the list, and we can do that with your subscription of just $10 a month at patreon.com/UFPEarth. Also, don't forget about the Boldly Go Project. Celebrate Gene Roddenberry's centennial by sharing what gives you hope for the next century. Go to boldlygo100.org or use the hashtag BoldlyGo100 to show it makes you optimistic about the future.
Justin.
All right, listeners. Yes?
Can I introduce our special guest?
Okay. Brandon will get the special privilege of introducing our very special guest who has not been on this podcast before. Go ahead, Brandon.
There's a reason why. Because he's my crying buddy. Hey, Alex, how's it going? It's Alex Perry. How you doing?
Hey, Brandon. Hey, Chrissie. Hey, Justin. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, Alex, you host the podcast called the Daily Trek Podcast.
Weekly Trek.
Weekly Trek. Thank you. Weekly Trek.
Come on, Brandon. Do you even listen? You don't even listen to it.
You know how little podcasts I listen to right now is I listen to like not very many podcasts at all right now. Fine. It's crazy. So
if it's overall all podcasts, you are excused.
Yeah, I barely listen to podcasts anymore. But Alex and we met in person in Vegas in, I believe it was 2018.
Yep.
And
year.
I just happened to be sitting behind you and Jim Morehouse when Picard came on stage to make the announcement. When Patrick Stewart came on stage to make the announcement about the upcoming Picard show.
That's right.
And we were bawling and hugging and crying and screaming and laughing, and it was a very, very emotional moment that I will never forget as a part of my fandom.
Yeah, an absolutely terrific moment. We will let the audience decide whether the product ultimately lived up to the emotional moment around the return, but hey, looking forward to season 2.
Yeah. Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with Star Trek and how you became a fan and how you became a podcaster?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a Star Trek fan for I'm 34 years old, so 28 years. I was 6 years old, living in the UK, and came across an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, the one with Berlinghoff Rasmussen from season 5. I caught the last 5 minutes of the episode, just the last 5 minutes. And I was instantly hooked on BBC Two. And so then I just became a massive Star Trek fan, and it's just been a really significant part of my life ever since then. And in 2017, I got to know some of the folks over at TrekCore.com, the Star Trek fan site, which does a lot of news stuff, and started doing book reviews and things like that, and was approached by the Tricorder Transmissions about potentially...
As you get your cat out of the way, sorry.
Potentially hosting they had an opening for a host for a weekly news show. And so, yeah, I've been doing that. And now I'm now coming up on I'm a month away from my 3rd year doing that. So,
nice.
yeah.
Very cool.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not every week because, some weeks there's not a whole ton to talk about. But I probably put out 30, 40 episodes a year.
Nice.
That's great. Yeah. And, well, I have more time to listen to podcasts, so I listen to it just about every week. And it's nice just to have the roundup and see what people think about what's going on. So appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And it's great to have you on here. I think I met you probably in 2017 or 18,
it would have been about
like
that time. I had been going to STLV since 2011, but I didn't know anybody. It was like my solitary vacation. I would go and just kind of hang out by myself and do the panels and the photo ops and the autographs and all of that. But it was after I started using Twitter and started to get to know people that way that I started actually meeting people at the convention. And now, of course, it's the place where everybody knows your name. So, which is fun.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's nice to have a little crew of people that, you sort of know and run with and enjoy seeing every time you're there.
Awesome.
It's very cool. And it still felt surreal when I was there and somebody would be like, "Don't I know you from Twitter?" And I'm like, "Probably. Right, who are you?" Yeah. Like, I don't know. So it's a lot of fun. So
okay, Alex.
Okay.
5-question lightning round.
Okay.
Favorite Kurtzman era series?
Ooh, Lower Decks.
Favorite Kurtzman era episode?
Remembrance.
Favorite Kurtzman era character?
Pass.
Pass. Favorite series
Mariner.
as a whole? Mariner. Okay.
Mariner. Okay.
Favorite series as a whole?
My favorite is TNG. The best is Deep Space Nine.
Okay. And favorite character from TOS?
McCoy.
There we go. Nice.
Excellent. Okay, are you done taking over hosting from me, Brandon?
No, I'm going to do the rest. Yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
No, it's fine. I love it. This is great. Okay, so thank you, Alex, for joining us. We are here to talk about Discovery, Season 4, Episode 5, The Examples. So we'd like to start by talking about our kind of initial impressions, overall how we feel. And since you're the guest, Alex, tell us kind of, overall how you feel about it.
I liked this one. I didn't love it, but I liked it. It felt like an important episode for moving the story of the DMA forward. There was, sort of a nice kind of episodic story to it with evacuating the Akali asteroid and, sort of the prisoners issue. A great new character in the form of the, I'm forgetting his name already, but the Ryzian scientist. Ruin Taka, that's right. And, and there was some stuff I didn't love about the episode, and there was some stuff I thought was maybe a little bit, contrived, but hey, it's an episode of Star Trek Discovery, so there's a certain amount of truth to that to every episode, and this one was a good one. So yeah, it's definitely not my favorite of the season, but it's also not my least favorite so far. So I think it's probably right in the middle of the pack.
Okay, that's good. However you feel about it, we can talk about all those things if you want. So Chrissy, what did you think kind of overall about the episode?
I thought it was very good. I have to agree with you, Alex, that it seemed like we have to make some connections before we go to the next part of the plot episode. But it did give us some important bits of information. The whole thing about Culber being burned out, my term, with what's going on and with what he experienced. And I think books need to save people is going to turn out to be dangerous at some point. So, yeah. Okay.
So you found some interesting things in there for the characters.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. And Brandon, what did you think?
So I liked this episode. I had like a weird melancholy feeling at the end of the episode, but it was also the first episode, honestly, probably in the run of Discovery, where I was like legitimately frustrated that I couldn't go to the next episode right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Like I really, really wanted to get to the next episode and was like, I wish this was streaming right now so I could keep going. So like I think I just need to process this episode a little bit more. I have some interesting feelings about some of the stuff that's going on here, but I liked it. There was some really good stuff in here.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting. So for me, yeah, like when I first watched it, I was like, I'm really enjoying this. I think there's some good stuff that's going on here, but I feel like I missed some, like there was some stuff I think I missed at the end in the conversation between Book and Tarka, and I needed to see it again. And then when I rewatched it, I thought, yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I'm really liking what they're going. It's probably not my favorite episode of the season, but I think actually for me it's up there because we did get some interesting stuff about this anomaly, helping to move that forward while at the same time keeping it mysterious. I thought the evacuation was interesting. It was great to give Reese something more substantial to do. I really liked that. The part with the prison and kind of the dilemma there was, I thought, really interesting and subverted some of my expectations. And I think it was a good kind of exploration, in particular for one of the characters that focused on, Felix, about what it's like to feel like you're doing penance or being rehabilitated, which is a subject I'm very interested in. Culber's struggle was really interesting. I like that a lot, kind of continuing the mental health theme for this season. And then we got some cool Zora stuff. I mean, who doesn't like that? So, yeah. So I thought there was a lot of, again, not quite my favorite, but I thought there was a lot of really good stuff I think that we can dig into. So let's get into some of the specifics. So, I mean, one of the main things was this guy, Ruin Tarka, who's this brilliant Ryzian scientist, which I love, a Ryzian scientist, but he comes aboard to kind of see what he can do about this anomaly. And they're finding out that it's not a natural phenomenon. There's someone behind the anomaly. And Stamets and Tarka kind of take it a little bit too far, and Saru has to cut them off. But I thought that was really interesting. But so this part with kind of Stamets and Tarka and the anomaly, what are your thoughts on that, Alex?
I thought Tarka was a great character. Very like a good addition to the kind of chemistry. I saw somebody write that, Stamets kind of started off in a very sort of similar role, but as the character has developed and gone through stuff, he's sort of mellowed out a little bit. So it was nice to have a bit more of the sort of antagonistic scientist, brilliant character back on the show. Very interesting, that conversation, though, at the end with Book. I mean, it definitely felt like there was some ... about that whole conversation that implies that Tarka maybe knows a bit more about what's going on than he is necessarily letting on about it. The one thing, though, that, like... The one thing I sort of struggled with a little bit in the episode is they just sort of very quickly reach that decision right at the start, because the anomaly, the DMA, disappears and then it reappears somewhere else, that it therefore must be made by someone and not a natural phenomenon. Cough, 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 grab it on a lips. But it was this weird heel turn for the episode, because they just went like, oh, well, it must be man-made. And then the rest of the episode, it felt like it had then been weeks since they discovered that it was not natural, to the point that halfway through the episode, I was like, am I misremembering a scene from the previous episode in which they discovered that the thing was man-made? Like, Culber's talking about, all this anxiety and fear that's spreading around the Federation over the fact that it was man-made. It was all very compressed into a tiny piece of the episode that I just don't think they quite gave enough time to. But it's a very interesting concept, right? I mean, I'm super interested to find out sort of, what the answers are, and it's clear to me that in some way Tarka, is not necessarily involved, but at least has more information to share than he did in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that you picked up on that, because, well, the way that I felt about it was, in a previous episode, I think we had seen that there seemed to be something that wasn't right about it. It was changing direction, and it didn't quite fit, these different kind of natural phenomena. So I felt like they were already kind of primed for that, and this was the thing that pushed it over. Like, this plus this plus this means we think it must be made by someone. And when they were talking about the panic, I wasn't thinking that it had been a long time. I was thinking that somehow this had gotten out, or they felt they had to let people know, and that was the reaction they were just getting within hours or days of it or something. But I could be wrong. I could see that.
The only thing faster travels faster than Warp 10 is the news, right?
Yeah,
the
right.
gossip. So,
Gossip, yeah.
It did feel like the Culber plotline of that did ramp up quickly because, like, while I didn't get this impression out of him from last time when he was talking with Book. Like, he did share some personal information, right? But I think that was just to kind of, like, get Book to open up is how I interpret it last time. And then this time he's, like, really affected by everything that's going on. And that did seem rather abrupt to me. But, I mean, also, when we were talking about season 1 of Star Trek Picard, I had a problem with something's going on, and then in the next scene, Seven of Nine and Raffi were holding hands, and this relationship had started, and I'm like, what happened? Like, this happened so quick. And then Justin had said something when we were talking. I think it was Justin who was like, well, yeah. I get the impression that a lot of time has passed because the ship is fixed, they're ready to go, and this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, well, actually, that's better then. Actually, I feel better about that now, knowing that maybe there's something there. But this is where I think they need to have, like, a captain's log, you know, to say, hey, something's happened, to show that time has passed. Because with quick cuts, it's usually implied that that's a short period of time when you just do a cut. Right. A fade out and a fade in signifies an extended period of time, right? But a captain's log can say, hey, we've been working on this for a month now, right? And this, I mean, I forgot to mention it when we recorded last time, but they started the episode with a captain's log last time. And it was beautiful because we hadn't seen that like in a long time. Cool. You know, and I think that's something that is kind of missing from Star Trek. But yeah, I kind of agree that it seemed kind of abrupt there. So, but Tarka himself as a character, his introduction was kind of odd to me as well because everybody was kind of giving glances and stuff. So I'm like, is this a character they've mentioned or we've seen before that I'm just not remembering their name?
But they're making it seem like he's a famous person, well known.
Yeah. Or I was expecting like some like celebrity personality or something like this. Just the way they were like looking at each other, and he's just like, So I don't know. It's just the introduction, and even like when the camera was behind him, I'm like, are they gonna turn this around and reveal it? It's gonna be like George Takei or something like that. Like just the way
I did get that same kind of potential stunt cast vibe to it. I was like, oh, are they building up to like it's gonna be someone that like everybody knows? And I mean, I think lots of people know who the actor was, but it was not like I was like, oh, is it gonna be Bob Picardo?
That would have been amazing. But yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, I got the sense that he is in some way notorious for kind of brushing off Stamets, and Stamets has told a bunch of people. But yeah, I could see that. Chrissy, what did you think about kind of this part with Stamets and Tarka and what we find out about the anomaly?
I love Stamets getting introduced to somebody who's treating him the way he treated everybody. There is a beautiful irony to that. And he recognizes it at the end. We do see that. I think there's more information here. He has more information than we realize. And
seems like it.
And I don't know if it's going to turn out this is because of something, you know, that he actually knows, or he's just put pieces together and he suspects. But the thing on his neck, that was like an emerald chain.
Means I think that means he was like a slave with the emerald chain, right?
So I'm wondering.
I thought they totally took one of those conspiracy aliens out of his neck. That's what I thought it was going to be.
Well, it'd be good to know what happened to them. So yeah, you know.
But I think it meant that he was enslaved by the emerald chain because I think that's the kind of thing that they had last season.
I thought so, and so now I'm wondering if maybe we have kind of a what was the name of the guy that built the Death Star and then sabotaged it?
Galen Erso.
Erso, yes. I was going to say Jyn Erso, but that was his daughter. So I'm wondering if we have that kind of a situation here, or maybe he was involved in creating this.
Oh, that would be interesting. I've been trying to think about like who would be behind this. I have like a wish for it that is probably not going to happen, but it's just been my overall wish for this era of Star Trek, and that's to have the Tholians be behind it because I just want to see more Tholians. Like we have had references, but not seen any for quite some time.
Well, they did not get name-checked in the Memory Alpha random page generator deep dive of the Metreons, the Nicene, and the Iconians and the Q Continuum from earlier in the episode, so I think we can safely cross those 4 off the list. But hey, that still leaves a lot of candidates.
I'll tell you what I want. I want the novel about the last time they saw the Q Continuum, like 600 years before. Like, what was that about? Right? Like,
or we were about to see that in 2 months in Star Trek Picard season 2.
I don't think so. I got the impression it was like we'll see Q in Picard season 2, which is early 25th century, but then there's something later that happened, and that was the last time he saw. Maybe that's just my wish because I want to see more.
What if it's the Davidians?
Don't even start with me about that, Brandon.
That's how Discovery ends. Like the whole thing.
Let's just say my review for Oblivion's Gate will probably be up by the time this episode drops, and I'm very pleased that other people loved it.
Because we talked to all the authers on our last episode.
It's on my podcast queue. I'm looking forward to listening to it.
Okay.
I cried in it.
I cried too, and then I got angry, and I've stayed angry about it.
Okay,
you know what?
Interesting.
David Mack has something to say to you in that interview.
I know he does because I did an interview with him for Trekcore, and I asked him a question about it, and his answer did not make it into the final interview, but yeah, I totally understand the logic and the reasons, and I think it was a courageous and a bold choice, and it's very well written. And I hate it.
Okay,
that's allowed.
Cool. Well, anyway, hopefully, whoever this turns out to be won't be something you hate. But Chrissy, go ahead.
No, I just say before we get away from that listing that we had, did they just low key say that the Iconians reappeared at some point, and they know that
surviving members?
Yes. Which I think is a Star Trek Online thing, right? Like, don't the Iconians have some role in Star Trek Online's version of the Star Trek history?
I'm pretty sure they do. Plus, see, now I'm trying to remember because it wasn't too long ago I read the Gateways trilogy, which is about the Iconian Gateways. I'm trying to remember if there were any surviving ones that were in there. But yeah, they said surviving members, and I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see that.
No, and I think in Gateways as well, you are right, Justin. I think the Iconians do appear in that as well. Yeah, and also Devil's Heart, right? Doesn't that book also posit that Iconians, sort of spread out across the galaxy, and that they kind of formed other kind of races and cultures and stuff?
It's been a while since I read it, but I think that's right. Yeah.
I have it, but I don't remember it. I read it when it was like 92. I think I read that.
I read it also when it came out, and then in the build up to Picard, I was rereading a bunch of like big Picard books. So I did reread that one for that, and that's the only reason why I remember literally anything about it, other than the iconic, the cover of him holding the giant ruby, which is very iconic.
Oh, the ruby, yeah. So well, let's. Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
So Tarka here, though, like his reaction to when Book is like, "You know something, don't you?" and he like laughs,
like a nervous laugh.
Laugh. I totally think he knows exactly who it is, and he's like keeping it close to his vest for now, which is very intriguing. But I mean, like the other thing is like his theory of, I think I wrote it down here, where it's like a tunnel through space and time to bring the wormhole here. I have bad writing. I can't read my own writing here.
I think it was something like they've created like a subspace tunnel in order to bring it certain places, and this device controls something like that. Yeah,
but I mean, like, with the fact that it was space and time, this makes me think, like, I don't know, for some reason I just got the impression something out of our past. So I think something from Star Trek past is going to come into this, and this is coming from the past. It is the
graviton ellipse.
Hey, here's a crazy theory. Right.
Okay, we love that.
This season has been dropping us Enterprise hints aplenty, right? I mean, you've got the Archer Space Dock in episode 1 and Archer's theme. You've got the Akali this week, right, from Civilization, which, Jim Morehouse thinks is a great episode, and I don't. And hey, are they dropping hints that this is a lead up to the unknown entity behind the DMA is actually somebody from future our guy? Past. He's past guy in this case, but he would be future guy to us from Enterprise fandom era.
That would be
no way. That's what it is. But wouldn't that be cool?
No, that would be.
Oh, and then we get our Jonathan Archer cameo in this because Jonathan Archer is future guy, right? What's the graviton ellipse? You got to remind me of this one.
One small step.
Voyagers, one small step.
The junk anomaly that that like disappears and reappears in random places.
Yeah, and it's sucked in this guy who was on a Mars mission in the 21st century
That's right.
and goes to the Delta Quadrant later.
Season 6
That's
of
right.
Voyager is not my strong suit.
Yeah, and Chakotay is like a big fanboy, and they find.
Oh, that's right. He totally always was, right?
Yeah,
Always
right.
was,
Yeah. It's well established.
Hey, I have a soft spot in my heart for that.
No, it's a great episode. It's actually a really good episode of Voyager. If you haven't rewatched it lately, it is worth a rewatch.
Yeah,
It's Farscape in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a little bit. Okay, so anything else about the anomaly and Stamets and Tarka, or any other guesses as to whom it might be behind it?
It was that final scene of them at the bar talking where I'm just like,
Yeah.
damn it, I want the next episode right
You wanna
now.
know
It
what's
was that
happening,
scene
yeah.
between them at the bar, like just the two of them, Book and him together, Book and Tarka together, that was such a wonderful, wonderful scene.
Yeah, it was a great scene.
And it was an interesting place to lead. Like, I didn't realize this would be the last scene in the episode. And, his last line is, so much anger, last few lines, so much anger, no place to put it. You don't, and Book, I think Book says, you don't know me. It says, no, but I know anger. It's a wonderfully productive emotion. Nice to meet you, Mr. Booker. Like, he's ending on anger being like this positive thing at the end of the episode. I'm like, what is going on here? So that was very
It's not very
intriguing.
Rysian either, is it? I mean,
No,
but
I mean,
he's not very Rysian.
yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, depends on what kind of Horgon he's grabbing, right? So,
right.
I was going to say, like, he seems to be, a scientist of, space-time, but he could be like a pleasure scientist. Maybe they have those things. Anyway, but yes, he seems very different from what we've seen before.
But intentionally so. I mean,
Sounded
that's
really
not a
bad.
knock on
Oh, yeah.
it. Like, I think it's a very deliberate choice to have done it that
It's
way.
totally great. I mean, it's just like in TNG's Suspicion when you have a Ferengi scientist.
Right.
It's like, this is
Yeah.
cool. I want to
Yeah.
see this. Yeah. So, okay. Anything else on the anomaly topic?
Oh, this is where we get the other Spielberg reference. We're going to need a bigger
yes,
room.
now I remember. We need a bigger room. Yes.
Oh, like you're gonna need a bigger boat. Yeah. Okay. Got it. That was two. Nice. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this evacuation. So this anomaly is heading toward this asteroid colony. I have to admit, when they said they needed to evacuate, I'm like, oh, God, I hope it's not like 5 billion people or something, because that's a big problem. But it was, 1,200 people, and Reese leads the evacuation, which is really cool. But then they find there are these 6 people inside this prison, and their leader seems to not care. He's like, hey, they're supposed to be the example to not do criminal activity. And, of course, Book and Burnham go down to try to rescue them. And it's these 6 people, most of them there for pretty petty offenses for being in jail for a long time. But there is this one guy, Felix, that did kill someone and feels like he wants to do his penance and stay there, which I think it's very interesting that Burnham lets him go and Book is pretty angry and thinks it's wrong to leave him behind. So
Can I just interrupt for 1 second here
Yeah,
and talk
go
about
ahead.
Felix for a second? Michael
go
Grey Eyes. You have no idea how thrilled I am to have Michael Grey Eyes on
He's
Star
from
Trek.
Saskatchewan, right?
He's from Saskatchewan, okay? He's a
yeah.
wonderful... He's a Canadian gem, and he's just
awesome.
not used enough. Like, I've been watching him on, like, quite a few things. He was in, I think it was season 1 of True Detective he was in. But I mean, like, I've been watching him since way back in 95. He was in a film called Dance Me Outside, which is about Aboriginal life in Canada. And, there was a spin-off TV show called The Res from that. I can't remember if he was in the show or not. It's been so long since I've seen it. But I mean, like, that show was a staple of my youth. And I don't know, I think it's just wonderful. He was in The New World. Like, he's an amazing actor, and I'm thrilled to finally see him in Star Trek. And this is great. I think this is awesome.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. Like, I'm not sure if I'd seen him in anything before, but I thought he was really great in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Is this potentially the first person from Saskatchewan who's been in Star Trek? I don't know
probably.
enough about
No,
it, but
well, William
it's
Shatner
possible.
is from Regina, so he went
Is
to
he?
school in Regina.
Oh.
I
so.
didn't know that.
I went to school there.
Yeah,
I knew he was
went to school
Canadian.
here
I
in
didn't know
Regina.
that. Where I know him
Yeah.
from was Fear the Walking Dead. He
Yes,
was-
yes.
Yeah, he was on that ranch with the crazy old man. Yeah.
Yeah. I love Michael
Yeah,
Grey Eyes so much.
he's
So
good.
I loved him. He was awesome.
He was really great because I felt like he had a nice nuanced performance. He was just like, I don't know, he just had the right way of doing it, and I felt like with the same line someone else could have done it in a totally different way that wouldn't have worked. So but yeah, like, so this whole kind of evacuation and at the prison and all that. What are your thoughts on that storyline?
Love a classic Star Trek moral dilemma, right? I mean, it sort of is in that way. I mean, you could pick up this storyline and drop it in any episode of TNG, of TOS, of any of the shows. It would resonate just as well. There was one thing. So I loved it. I thought the performance of Felix was excellent. The kind of back and forth between Felix and Burnham was really great. And Burnham got that amazing kind of like captain moment at the end of the episode where she just totally shuts down the Akali colony leader and tells him what he can go do with himself, which is just such a wonderful kind of like Cisco or Janeway-esque kind of line.
It actually made me think it was like a bit of a Kirk moment where Kirk would be like, you know what? It doesn't matter. You're just going to have to do it.
Yeah, it was that like level of authority.
I have a ship to command.
We're naming everybody here because I felt Picard. Like it sounded like Picard to me. Like when Picard's talking to the Cardassian at the end of the Wounded.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Like that's what I was thinking of. It totally felt like this could have been a TNG episode to me. Like absolutely.
Yeah. The only thing missing was her then sitting in the captain's chair and swiveling around to not face him anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. To turn her back on him. Oh yeah. But no, I mean, that's so interesting that we had different impressions for what but it was a very Star Trek thing that was going on.
Yeah, the one thing I thought about it, though, was and credit to Claire on the TrekCore team, because she put this in her review, and it's what made me think about it. I would have liked it if the other examples had committed crimes that were a bit more serious, because it would have heightened the ethical dilemma a bit further, right? Because the episode is not intentionally telling you that it's fine because they didn't really commit a crime anyway, so of course it's morally wrong. But it's all, regardless of what any of those people did, it would have been morally wrong for them to have left them there to die in front of the asteroid. So it just would have kind of like, it would have put more of a button on the idea that it was not about what any of these individuals had done, it was about the treatment of them as a result of the decision by the society in which they lived was wrong and should have been kind of dealt with. But I mean, that's a minor criticism for what is otherwise, I think, a really nice section of the episode. And I mean, the Book and Burnham scenes in this season have leveled up from last season, and they were really good last season. Like, they just have such amazing chemistry together, and I love it anytime those two characters are sharing the screen, and especially if they're sharing the screen under pressure on an away mission without the support of Discovery directly at their backs.
Yeah, and I mean, that was the really interesting part of it, I think, was that they were getting into this banter that they had from their courier days, right? And like, okay, we're doing this thing and we're trying to relieve some pressure and get to what we need to do, but they end up in a place that's very different, of a lot of tension, and Book saying it was wrong that you did that. And I think that's very interesting to see where that goes forward, because he feels very strongly like you need to save everybody. Nobody should be killed by this thing that killed my planet. And she's like, well, we need to respect what he feels he wants to do with his life, which I think is the correct choice, but you can see how Book feels the way he does. So I think it's a really interesting divergence, and they beam back and he just like walks away without a word. So it's a lot of tension there. Very interesting.
I got a couple questions here on some stuff. Like, I wrote down a couple things because I got a couple points, but I don't want to forget. So was the stuff that they were talking about, I didn't have time to check, was any of that from Wonderlands?
That's a good question.
Don't think so, but I don't know because I didn't have a chance to really look it up.
I wanted to check and see if
Discovery
that,
novel.
Okay, that's fine. Alex, though, I had a question for you. So we did kind of get what you were seeing there with Felix's character, because he had killed somebody, but he wasn't in jail for killing that person. He was in jail for something else. But I mean, like, we did see.
Was he?
Yeah, he was in jail for something. They briefly went over it, but that's not. He wasn't in jail.
I must have missed that because I thought it was for killing the person.
They said he took a joyride on something. Vehicle.
But that was a lie.
That's what I assumed too.
I assumed that was a lie, and that's what he had told them. But actually, he told Burnham, like, "I'm here for killing someone." That was my impression.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to watch again. See, my impression was that he was in jail for a petty crime as well, but he decided upon himself to take this as the penance for the other crime that he did.
No, I totally that's an interesting take, but I totally got a different impression that he told the other people that he had done something like that so they could feel that he was there for the same reason, or they could feel a commonality, but what he tells Burnham is the real reason that he's there.
Yeah, okay. And he told other people. Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to watch again.
Okay.
Because unfortunately we're recording this on the day of, and I watched it twice today, but I mean, it was pretty rapid, right?
And it's a lot of story. I mean, that's a 52-minute episode.
There's a lot going on,
There is a lot.
But sorry, before we get back to your other questions, Brandon, what did you think, Alex? Did you think he was there for the petty crime or for killing someone?
I think I was with you, Justin, Chrissy. I think it when initially when he said what his crime was, he was lying, that he was there for the murder, and then he reveals that at the end of the episode as like, no, actually, I'm here because I killed someone.
But the murder was also 30 years ago.
So he's been in prison for 30 years.
The implication was
in
he'd been
this
there
spot.
all that time.
Okay.
Yes. I think he's been there all that time. Is what the implication.
Okay.
Yeah,
could be. I'll have to watch again. So,
I mean, because I think they were saying that they make them examples and they're there for life.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
so then, Alex, does that change your thought on then? Because you said if it was more morally gray as to what their crime was, then it was.
No, because he makes the decision to stay. Right, like. He takes it upon himself to say, I deserve to die for the crime that I committed, when I think from a moral perspective, potentially the argument is, if you don't believe in the death penalty, that you shouldn't have to die for that. And so I think the episode, not intentionally, but does kind of, it is trying to say something serious about the carceral system and what you shouldn't do, but in the process, I think does not go far enough to condemn that in the way that the kind of scenario here is constructed.
Yeah. If I'm going to build off of that a little bit, I think what you're saying is that by this person, if we're right with our interpretation, that he is actually there for committing the crime of murder, and that he's gotten this sentence and he feels like, it's right that I die here. He's in some way, at least in part, validating the system that they have, where it isn't validated for the other ones.
Where it's like you steal a piece of bread and you're in prison for life. Like, of course that's wrong, right? And of course that person should get out and not have it be a thing. But what if there was another murderer there who was like, I would like to get off the asteroid, please. Right, like
that's true.
I think that would have been a slightly more interesting kind of angle to unpick from it.
Yeah, but at the same time, I kind of like that it's not like one way or the other. It's not like a bunch of people that are there for murder, a bunch of people that are there for petty crimes. I think there's some complexity and nuance to it, but I can see that it maybe could have had a stronger message if it was played a little bit differently. But.
See, I don't know, like I got, maybe my impression is wrong, okay, but I mean, like, just based on what I saw there, like, I thought there was this beautiful story with this character of him, so I don't know, I gotta watch it again, clearly, okay? But the impression that I got was he hadn't been there long, and he is, now that he's in jail, he's taking his time for this penance, and he's put the penance on himself because he regrets what he did, because he didn't intend to kill the person, and he didn't intend to steal that historical piece, right? And, like, his line, not only did I take her future, I took her past, right?
Yeah, I don't think he intended to do either of those things, to kill the person or take the thing. Yeah.
No, he didn't, absolutely. Like just as he was telling the story, I was thinking Bride of Frankenstein in my head, right? Like where, Frankenstein's monster goes and visits that blind man, and then, shenanigans ensue and whatnot, right? But I mean, like,
I was going to make espresso. Sorry.
So, but I don't know. And so then I had this beautiful story of somebody, I don't know, like accepting their guilt. And it's like, I didn't intend for that to happen, but I did that. And I mean, I guess in a world of where the legal system is designed to get people out of whatever crime they've committed, I saw this beautiful story of a person accepting responsibility for something that they didn't intend and the damage that they caused somebody else. So that's the story that I got out of this.
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, I think I think that could be valid as well, because
it totally is.
what we know about this is what these characters are telling us. We don't have a flashback. We don't know what might have actually happened. So either one actually could be right.
Yeah.
I like yours better, Brendan.
Okay.
Okay.
but can I tell you what's really cool? What's really cool about it is that we're having a debate about this moralistic issue that came up in an episode of Star Trek, right? Like, there aren't, it's been a while since we've had just a real meaty moral issue in an episode of Star Trek to kind of wrap our arms around and really debate back and forth and not have it be just like a clear cut. This is a clear right answer to this, and so in some ways, the more we talk about it, the more I'm actually liking the episode, because I'm like, it's generating this level of discussion about it.
Now let me add another layer to this. So this is something that I'm trying to sort out and compartmentalize my feelings on this episode here. So I'm not sure how I feel about Book's response to the end of this here. Okay, so to me, Book's response felt more like a Michael Burnham response, but they've been changing the Michael Burnham character this season, and I'm loving how they're changing the Michael Burnham character. However, with Book being so upset about this guy making this decision to stay behind, that didn't feel right to me, because 3 episodes ago, Book was fighting for his own agency to go and fight and get the information on the dark matter anomaly and fighting against Michael Burnham to say, I want to do this for me because I need to do this. And so here we go. We've got a character who's saying, I need to stay behind for me. And now Book's like, that's not good enough for me. I needed to save this guy.
Here's an interesting layer to that. Sorry, that I wanted to add. So I think when it has to do with something he wants to do, he feels very forceful about it. Like, I have to do this thing. I feel this responsibility. But maybe with someone else, he for some reason isn't feeling as empathetic about it, because he is thinking about this anomaly that is destroying all of these lives. And it ties into something I noticed in this episode. So I think there's a part of it where he's saying that he can't communicate or use his empathy in some reason. And that came up in the first episode as well. So, and we haven't...
but that's because those things were a machine.
Yeah.
They were a robot, and that's why he couldn't communicate with them, is because they were artificial.
Okay. Well, never mind that then.
But see, what you're saying, where he's like, that's felt Burnham to me. So what you're saying, that's how Burnham has reacted previously.
Well, the way that I tied it in, I think there's an interesting thing for 3 different characters about what they're calling this savior complex, right? I think it was called out for Burnham in the first episode, I think it was by President Rilak, that she had this savior complex, like saving everyone, right? And it seems like at this point now, Burnham has learned that that's not necessarily the healthiest thing. You need to take it situation by situation. But I think that Book has that, and Culber is called out for having that as well, for this thing wanting to save everyone. So I think it's interesting, the kind of link between those characters and thinking about saving everyone and kind of doing everything you can and sometimes sacrificing parts of yourself to get there. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's all. I think you're on a good track there. And all of these are not mutually exclusive. That's maybe the best part about this. But I read Book's anger over leaving Felix that had nothing to do with Felix and everything to do with the fact that Book didn't want to be party to anyone else being killed by this thing. It could have been anyone. It had nothing to do with him in particular, which is basically what you were saying. But it's very, I think it's more selfish on his part. He doesn't want that on his conscience, that he might have been able to save this person if they had just allowed him to save them.
Right. Even if the person is making the choice. And I mean, this also gets into an interesting area of morality, because it makes me think of, when someone might be contemplating suicide, right? Like they might say, like, this is my choice to do this, but, I think we feel like we need to talk them out of that. Are you sure? Like, there's so much to live for and like all of this. But effectively in this episode, he's saying, like, allow me to commit suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that
doing
too.
This, right? So, and that can be a really, I think, tricky thing in real life. Like, what is the line between, and it gets into things where you talk about like assisted suicide to relieve someone's suffering. Like, where is the line between someone being able to say, yes, I can make that decision, and preventing them from doing it, or in some way trying to convince someone not to do that? I think that's gets into maybe an even grayer area than we see in the episode, but it made me think about that a lot.
That actually reconciles with Burnham acting the way she does, though, because with the Vulcan upbringing, Vulcans are accepting of suicide in extraordinary circumstances. And I think that would have fallen into what she understood to be those acceptable extraordinary circumstances. So that's where
Where is it that's established?
Tuvok says it. In relation to illness, I believe, terminal illness, but...
for like assisted suicide.
Yeah.
Or terminal illness, something like that.
You know what it is? It's in the episode with Quinn, A Death Wish. Because that's why Quinn has him as his lawyer.
Right. That sounds right. Okay. Interesting.
I was definitely thinking about that too, because then it like the suicide angle of it, because it's like generally as a society, our main goal is to try and prevent suicide from happening, right? And like this, that's how it felt to me too.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't. Because he was accepting the penance. I don't know. So like it definitely left me conflicted, and maybe that's why I had this melancholy feeling at the end of the episode. And I just need to like stew on it for a bit and think about it. It's like there's probably a lot more here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, I think Burnham says at one point before she's convinced, like, he needs to have his choice. Like, you can have a different life. You can have more years. There's so much, to live for. And then you also think, like, maybe that would be possible. Maybe if he didn't make that decision, he could have gone on and do something to help someone else, right? But he had this really strong feeling that he needed in some way to do penance for what he had done. But yeah, I think it's a really difficult, and I felt kind of melancholy about it as well. Like, I can understand that, but it's sad. Like, a life has ended, is how I felt about it. A life that could have been used for something else, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Heavy.
There's a lot going on in that.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Alex. I mean, I've loved a lot of the Star Trek that we've gotten in the last 4 years, but it maybe hasn't been as much as this episode, where there's something like a real moral quandary that you can argue on all these different sides and interpret all these different ways. So this is making me like it more as well, because I didn't realize it.
And they started doing this in season 3, and it's carried over into season 4, and I really like it, where each episode has a story, right? Which begins, has a middle and an ending within the episode. And then there is some contextual element or some scenes within that episode that then ultimately tie you back to the wider plot of the season. And I think they started really doing that in a big... Well, I mean, they've done little bits and pieces of that in season 1 and 2, but 3 was the one where I really picked up on it and said, oh, I think this is actually what they're doing now. And they've improved on that for 4.
Yes. Yes.
Because each of the the stories for each of the episodes feel much more substantial as episodic stories, versus there were episodic stories in season 3, but they still ultimately kind of felt like they tied you back into some element of the overall story, right? So like Die Trying, for example, and going to the Seed Vault was its own episodic story, but it was still one that was very much about establishing the 32nd century and kind of giving you more of those context clues about where they were, versus now they've done all that and they're set up for the 4th season. 2 weeks ago, the story about the Coat Malat and Giovanni and, protecting the generation ship, right? Like, again, that was an episodic story. You got everything you needed to out of that story in the 45 minutes they told it in, while also getting some DMA stuff along the way. So I think they've gotten much, much better about kind of giving you substantial episodes.
Right. And what I really like about this season is it isn't like every plot line is about advancing the anomaly story. There are ones, like in this episode, that are about the effects that this thing is happening. Like, it's coming for this place, what happens, or that kind of thing. And the thing with Giovanni was like that as well. It was very much an episodic story about the effects of it, and also, seeing last week with the Navarran Federation negotiations, that was about something that was a side effect of this thing happening. It's not necessarily about the thing itself. So when I think about this episode, I could totally see, years from now being like, oh, why don't I put on that great episode with Felix with all the, moral dilemmas, right? And not even thinking about like, oh, I'm dropping into this season-long arc and I need to see the whole thing. Yeah, it's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But even in this one, you're saying where it's kind of episodic, we still got a lot of information about the DMA in this one.
We did.
It was a huge part of the episode, which is why this is like a big episode, because you had that big episodic bit, and it's not like you had one or two scenes. It's not like Terra Firma, right, where it was all about Giorgio, and then there were like two scenes in the second part that was about the Byrne storyline. This one was, if it's a 52-minute episode, a solid 25 minutes of it were the Felix stuff, and then the other 25 minutes were all about the DMA and the Taka story that we were just talking about, which all is very much tied into the overall kind of arc of the season. So yeah, it's they've been doing a really nice job of it, I think, striking that balance.
Yeah, I think so. Anything else about this part of the story?
Find a way to bring back Michael Grey Eyes.
As his twin that's living somewhere else.
Yeah. And it's so funny. Like, I've just said a lot of things I liked about the episode, so now I can say something that didn't quite work for me.
Okay.
Which is, it's so weird because sometimes they do really organic, natural character development, banter between, Book and Burnham that just feels very natural and gives you a ton of context about their relationship and tells you more about their history without really like them sitting down and being like, this happened to me during the year that I was away. And then you get this scene with Reese where it's like, I want to lead the evacuation, and then he gets this little speech about the hurricane thing. And it's like, oh, what a turgid check the box exercise of, you said you wanted to learn something more about the bridge crew. Well, here you go. Here's 2 sentences on Reese's motivation in this section, and it's just like, come on.
It's so interesting you guys felt that way, and I saw that in some reviews because I loved it. I thought, like, I want to know more about Reese. This is great. It totally worked for me. So that's
I wanted 4 minutes more of this episode seeing Reese in action.
Yeah.
Right? I said that last time where Reese was like, what about the solar sailing thing or whatever he said that he did?
Oh, that was Bryce.
And then was that Bryce? Okay, so
that was Bryce.
Bryce Reese.
They are different people.
But it was like, why didn't he get to do it?
Yeah.
Why didn't he get to do it, right? So instead, Burnham took over and was like, okay, I'm going to do the solar sailing thing. And here again, Burnham takes over and does the thing. I get it's the Burnham show. Okay?
Well, I mean, Reese does take over the evacuation, but they didn't show scenes of him doing that. Which it would have been nice to do that because clearly he was doing an awesome job, right? That you hear about in the background. Like he evacuates 1,200 people.
One scene of that would have... And it's probably a pandemic thing, right? Like their ability to do lots of different scenes with lots of extras is quite limited.
Yeah. And guys, you're saving 100 people. No, we can't do that.
So with every episode this season, we have to keep that in mind, that I think they have to make really clear choices about where to set the scenes and how many people to have in them. It's just like, I don't know. I don't feel bad about knowing that information about Reese. I think it's really interesting. It just feels to me like there was a more naturalistic way of doing it. And maybe it's because my brain is so social media broken of being on Twitter all the time and people constantly moaning about, we don't learn enough about the bridge crew, and we don't learn enough about the bridge crew, and that now anytime there's an element of something we learn about the bridge crew, I can picture the writer being like, I'm going to tell you something about the bridge crew now, you're like,
but you know what? Like, so that worked for me. That didn't bother me. What did bother me is seeing Linus and not having him say anything.
What is that? Like the 5th episode this season that's happened?
Yeah, he's just kind of in the background. But you'll see next week. It'll be the Linus episode.
But
maybe not.
Like you're saying there, Alex, like I couldn't even remember which character it was that was doing the solar sailing because it happened so quickly, right? It's like it was just a line, and then that character's gone. So, and then Burnham took over. So,
the thing with Reese in this episode did make sense to me contextually because it was just one of those like, this is not, we don't necessarily talk about our childhood when we're, on duty, and this, unless it's in his file, it's not something that Burnham would have known about. So that made perfect sense to me.
The president would know. She reads all the files.
Okay. She wasn't there, so...
And honestly, I am just sort of the opinion that, like, I don't need to know a ton about the bridge crew. There are plenty of main characters on this show that we know loads about, right? And we spend a ton of time with over the course of this. There were 7 main characters on The Next Generation. Yes, right. They all happen to be bridge crew. But this show has decided that it's going to have 7 main characters, and only 2 of them or 3 of them are going to be kind of primary bridge officers, and the rest are going to have other roles on the ship, and that's fine. I think this reach for, well, the bridge crew characters must automatically be the ones that we know the most about, is not what the show's trying to do. And we just end up in this really difficult situation where the show itself is like, no, we've got 7 or 8 characters who we are in the process of doing a really good job of fleshing out, and you guys keep coming back to these other 5 that you're just like, we must know more about them. And it's like, there is this element of, guys, I've only got 13 episodes a season, right? Like, and they have picked a set of characters that they are doing a really nice job at. Well, they lost one last week, but they were doing a really nice job of kind of, building out and fleshing out. So it's just, I don't know. It's just, there's always going to be this awkward tension between tell us more about the bridge crew and then not necessarily being enough time to do it.
Right. But Alex, you also wouldn't be upset if the next novel that Una McCormick wrote was the autobiography of Lieutenant J.
Totally. 100%. Absolutely. I want to know about all of the division changes, right? Like, because
and her dates with Picard.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Because she just could not decide which job she wanted on that ship.
That's great.
Consider your transfer granted.
That's where they got the idea for Rutherford. That's beautiful. The only thing I would say about that is think about, I've been looking at this more as an ensemble kind of thing, the way DS9 was. And so you have these characters that are there, they're kind of in the background, they weren't necessarily intended to be important, and then they are, like Rom, So, we'll slowly learn more about these people, and maybe we'll end up with a cast, with a quote-unquote main cast of 10 by the end of this. But
it's so tough, though. Like, DS9 was its own thing. Like, I think DS9
it was its own thing, and they also had 26 episodes a year to deal with that. So,
But it was more than just the main 7. You start out with, the main crowd, and then they pulled in more. That's my point.
Yeah. No, that is 100% totally a completely fair point. I think the only thing I also, because I've thought about the same thing, and I'm like, I'm being too hard on this. Deep Space Nine managed to figure it out. Why can't Discovery? And I think part of it too is just like DS9. They didn't go into it planning to do all those characters. It was just they did a character one time and it vibed and it worked, and they were like, oh, let's do more of this. And a lot of these kind of other ancillary Discovery characters, it just feels like they're trying to force it a lot of the time. And it's not coming naturally. And if it's not coming naturally, it's to my mind, it's not worth doing. But I mean, I would love for them to Deep Space Nine-ify Discovery in a really authentic way, right? Like to get there and be in that position where they can pull all these characters in and out. It just doesn't feel like it's the show they want to make. And so they're struggling with kind of adapting those pieces of it and bolting them onto the structure of the show. But it's but again, totally fair point.
No. Okay, let's keep going because I have a couple other things I want to make sure we talk about. Something we referenced a little bit is kind of Culber struggles, and I think this was touched on a bit actually last week when he was counseling Book, and Book asked him if he needed some help, and he said sure someday. And interestingly, he gets, I guess, a little 10-minute kind of counseling session with Kovich, which deepens the mystery of who he is and what he does. But I thought this was really interesting because I think he is kind of reaching the burnout point and needs to do something about it. And it feels like there'll be more for that. But what do you think about this part with Culber, Alex?
I love this scene. I thought this was a great scene. I thought it was a little contrived the way it comes together, but I don't care because it was amazing, right? Like anytime Cronenberg is on Discovery, he does a great, like, he clearly is having a great time just enjoying himself doing this, like, weird little bit part over on Star Trek, because he's got nothing else to do with his time, apparently. And I'm all for it. Like, it's terrific. The one thing I'm starting to feel, though, is if this is a character who is going to be, you know, not just that kind of ultra mysterious figure who kind of comes in and out of the series, you know, once or twice a season, where it's just Director Kovich and you don't really understand what his role is. If he's now at the point,
I thought they called him Doctor.
Yeah, if he's now at the point where he's like developing relationships with characters, I kind of would eventually like to find out exactly what it is that he does. Right, the kind of mysteriousness of it, either you're only going to use the character really sparingly, in which case you can maintain that level of mystery behind him, or he's having an active role to play in more of these stories, in which case the mystery behind it just kind of like, it's like, well, just tell me what he does, right? Just tell me what he does. I just want to know what he does so I can contextualize his role within everything else that's going on. But it's a great scene. I love it.
Okay. What do you think he does? What would be your guess, Alex?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want it to be Section 31. No way, no how, absolutely not. I know lots of people have suggested that as a thing, but like, no.
He seems to be like the kind of catch-all, help Starfleet with whatever they need.
Yeah, he seems to be a fixer, right? Like, you know, he's the guy you hire for all the needs you have, and that you know, and maybe there is an element of sort of doing things a little underneath the table, not in a Section 31 kind of way, but yeah, it just, you know, it would be nice to, is he in Starfleet? Is he with the Federation? Right, like that's unclear. He now this season apparently has some role to play in Starfleet Academy, right? Is he now the like head of Starfleet Academy? Is that his job? That's not really kind of like explained. It just it would be, and he's never been in a scene with President Rillick yet. So I think it just would help me. I love the character and I want to know more about him, and I feel like it's time for them to start to just kind of give us a little bit more information about exactly what his role within the system is.
Hold on a second, Alex. I'm typing a message to the writer's room in the past so they can address that next week. We'll see if I was successful.
We'll show you about Kovich.
What if Kovich is a fake name and he's actually really Boothby still alive?
I would love that. That would be great.
That would be perfect. That then turns out
he's somehow, or if he's somehow 8472 Kovich.
Also,
very
love
probably
it.
not. Yeah.
You know, I hadn't really thought about what his role was beyond that, because he does kind of look like he's the guy who hangs out and fixes things, and I was kind of when he was talking to Tilly about the stuff with the Academy, I'm like, well, maybe he's the commandant of the Academy, you know, and he's in charge of that, but. Yeah. The way you're talking just now, it occurred to me maybe he's like a civilian Secretary of Defense kind of position.
Yeah,
you know,
that feels
where
to me
he's a liaison.
That feels to me like it works best with what we've seen so far, and I'm totally cool with that. It just would be nice to like know that, so that then you know, when he offers advice and things, it's like in what capacity are you offering that advice? You know, how seriously should characters be taking it? They clearly understand what his role is, but we as the audience don't. And so it's just it's a super minor thing. Love the character, love the appearance in this week's episode, but it's also just like the more you see him, the more it's like, it's weird you haven't told us yet.
He seems to listen very well. Maybe he's an Elorian.
I was about to say he's the bartender. Yeah.
Instead of the big hat, he's got the big glasses. Like,
right? And those
I love
metal
that
ties.
idea too.
I want one of those ties.
But okay, I know we love David Cronenberg as Kovich, but if we go back to Culber, it almost, I mean, it seems like he's being told to take a break, but like, is there some tension or conflict between him being like a doctor and a therapist? Is one going to win out? Is he going to go a different direction, do a detour? I'm trying to figure out where this is going. What do you guys think?
Those aren't mutually exclusive.
They aren't necessarily, but it is, I think, hard to have two different roles that can be demanding.
He does seem to be holding both of those roles, which makes me wonder, are there no other doctors left in Starfleet? It just doesn't make sense.
We haven't really seen sickbay much this season. But yeah, I just don't know where they're going with it, or if he's going to go off in some other direction. I mean, I really like this idea that, the people that are helping other people or healing other people need help themselves, right? Because it can be very demanding.
Yeah,
I'm just not sure. I liked what happened last week and what's happened this week. I just have no idea where they're going with it, because it feels like it's something that's going to play out for a little bit, right?
Not knowing where it's going is natural, because if somebody's in the midst of that, you don't know where it's going. So,
yeah. Okay. We'll find out more, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's got a lot of survivor's guilt, which is basically what Kovic said, but just in different words.
A very brutal way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And it's like it's a type of survivor's guilt that is a unique one, because it's not like he was the only survivor of a plane crash or something. He survived literally just death, and with no seeming explanation. I mean, there's an explanation for it, but reason, like Kovic says. But I feel like he's expecting too much of himself. He talks about how he was lying to his patients. He was not lying. He was working with the information they had. There's somebody needs to remind him of that. And the only other thing, I'm waiting for somebody to bring up Spock, because it makes a lot of sense. Here, recognizing that Burnham may not actually know, we don't know how much she looked into his life beyond that little bit that we got in Unification 3. But I feel like Spock is the type of person who might have recorded his thoughts about having been resurrected, and that might be useful to people like Culber.
Maybe in an autobiography.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. It might be the thing that.
But I do think that's interesting, because Kovic is talking about like the unique facts of your existence. I think there is something unique in the way he's been brought back to life, but like Kovic needs to watch some more Star Trek, because people get brought back to life quite a bit.
But also keep in mind, the weird thing about it though is that he's sentient mushroom. Right, don't forget, he was brought back from mushroom
that's
material.
What I'm saying. That's like the unique part is the way he was brought back and kind of what he's made of in a way. Yeah. But being brought back to life is not a unique thing.
When Kovic says you're only human, I'm like, no, he's not. He's only mushroom.
Well, this or that.
Yeah.
I mean, Spock is all Genesis planet, right? So
unstable proto.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so I mean, I guess we'll see where it goes. I just think it's interesting to think about, and for Colbert to see where he goes. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about something that I made allusions to, but I'm very excited about, which is Zora. I think we've gotten the name this season, which we got way back in Calypso, which takes place sometime after this, 1,000 years maybe, but now, like, Burnham toward the end of the episode is having this conversation with Zora in the turbolift and finds out that Zora, experiences emotions. So this is kind of moving maybe a bit toward where we might get to in Calypso eventually, but I was excited about that. And I like Zora as a character, just kind of being there and understanding things. But like, what did you think about this part, and kind of how much they might extend it this season? What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm not really sure where they ultimately want to take it, and how much they, is Zora going to just be this, like, same way, you call on the computer twice an episode, and, it's like, now it's just a bit more of a human conversation rather than, talking to a machine. I mean, I'd like a Zora episode now, to go a bit deeper on, because, like, she is a character, and clearly an important one, and one they've been kind of building up to, or at least it seems that way. So yeah, it's interesting, but I'm really not sure where they ultimately are trying to take it yet.
I mean, are they going to think about some of the moral implications of this?
This is deep.
If your computer can experience emotions and may have sentience, like that makes it different when you order it to do things. Like, what if she disagrees and refuses to do stuff? Right?
I mean, maybe that's why they eventually, abandoned Discovery and because
that's
of that
dark.
piece of it.
Yeah,
right?
that's dark. Oh, don't.
You know what?
That's dark.
Zora, you're too. Yeah, it's
you
kind
want
of like
to do
Zora.
what
You're
now?
such a.
You go to the corner of the galaxy. You stay there, young lady.
1,000 years.
Yeah. Zora's become such a pain in the ass. We got to stick her way over there. Yeah.
I mean,
as long as the Zora episode that we get is called Emergence 2, I'll be happy. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
As long as there's a reference to Vertiform City.
Well, you know what? What really happens is that thing that flew off at the end of Emergence. It's been cruising around the galaxy for 800 years, and it's going to come into the computer and teach Zora
That was
something.
the sphere data. There you go.
Here's what else I'll say about Zora. I am completely indifferent to them ending up reconciling Discovery Season 3 with Calypso.
Me too.
I'm totally comfortable with Calypso just living as its own short story that does not fit in with the Star Trek universe, because given they have adapted the concept of Zora onto Discovery, I think there are really interesting things they can do with that character without having to keep in mind that eventually everybody has to get off the ship. The ship has to go back to looking like the way it was in Season 2, and it's been left alone for a really long time so that Craft can finally find it. Like, I would like their imaginations to be able to run wild and not feel like that's an endpoint they have to kind of get to. And so, I'm totally open to whatever direction they want to take the Zora character in, that maybe doesn't end up in the same place as Calypso, because that is an alternate universe story about Discovery, right? It happens in the third Splinter timeline, and
there you go,
and that's that.
Right.
Good reference.
Yeah, it could definitely be like in an alternate timeline or something like that. At the same time, I love Calypso. I was fine when it came out with it standing separately and never connecting. But now that it seems like they're moving toward that, and I think they have, I think Michelle Paradise made some comment that they're trying to move it toward that. Like, now I am interested to see how they do that. So I'd actually like to see that now. But I can understand not wanting them to be limited by maneuvering it that way. Yeah.
The DMA might be the answer for that one. If it is an anomaly that is both spatial and temporal, then that could send her anywhere.
Yeah, or a version of Discovery. Somewhere, and allow for that to happen, and
it gets duplicated.
Yeah. I do at some point, if they are going to wrestle with sentience here, we need at least a passing mention to the precedent set by Maddox v. Data.
Yeah.
Starfleet's mission is about seeking out new life, and there it sits.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Anything else on Zora?
This is like bonkers. I'm just like, when she's like, emotions are a recent development, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? Like, oh dear, this is going to be interesting. Like, holy smokes.
For sure.
I wonder, because we have just had the computer dealing with people in the medical bay creating a Soong-type android. And I wonder if that's going to play into it.
Just as long as, I guess, she looks like, who's that in that movie there, Audrey Hepburn?
Yeah.
And,
Well, I don't mean the android part, but I mean like the Soong information being introduced to the sphere data.
Yeah. Okay. That would be interesting. Yeah, man, they might play with that. Okay, well, I guess before we really get toward wrapping up, I just want to say Jet Reno's back. I've seen Jet Reno, so yeah. I know you don't. You don't like Jet Reno unless she's like eating snacks and making that joke.
She does need licorice.
I'm just it's the type of humor. Like, I mean, I'm like, I don't really like Tig Notaro very much, and it's very dry, and they're like, well, that's her humor, and I'm like, well, then I just don't like Tig Notaro, I guess.
You don't like dry.
So.
Well, you don't like dry humor. You don't.
I'm sure as a person you would like her just fine.
You don't like her type of humor, but okay.
It's just not working for me. I don't know. So
okay,
that's allowed.
Well,
but I know that people love her, so I'm not gonna piss on anybody's cornflakes over this one here. Like, I know people love her, so
It can't all be masturbating Magatus.
I know it can't. I mean, I wish it could, but it just can't. Okay.
Yeah, every week, listeners, Brandon tries to get us to use the image of the masturbating Magato as the show art, and I keep saying no.
They always in our private feed, their chat, they're like, they put 3 pictures from this week's episode. They're like, which one you want to use? And my response every time is, you know which one I want to use. Because they wouldn't even use it for that episode.
No, I refused. Anyway, okay. But before we get into a few final things, anything else anybody wants to bring up about the episode?
I want the next one now.
I enjoy it more now that we talked about it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Good.
Me too.
Yeah,
very
Same
much.
here.
I needed to process it, and I think I'll like it more upon rewatches and more within the context of the season. I think.
Yeah.
So I'm not writing this one off. But that Felix plotline was beautiful. I just loved it.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm just freaking out because I love Michael Grey Eyes, but like I did like that plot quite a lot. So. I thought it was beautiful. So
yeah, it definitely felt like an episode. Like there was a lot to process. I saw it the first time, and I was like, "Oh, I definitely need to rewatch this." I didn't really get it completely. And then on rewatch, I was like, "Aha, okay." So, and now in talking about it more, I feel like I more deeply understand what's going on and all the kind of dilemmas. Okay, so one of the things that we like to do is we like to talk about canon connections. And I just wanted to see if there were any favorites anyone had, Alex.
I mean, for me, it's got to be reaching into, the annals of Enterprise episodes and picking the Akali as the race to use and, faithfully recreating the very limited makeup that Michael Westmore created for the race in early season 1 of Enterprise because they blew all their budget on the pilot.
Yeah. That was definitely a deep cut. I was like, "Is that?"
It took me halfway through the episode for it to click with me. Initially, I was like, "Doesn't mean
Which
anything."
episode were they from?
Civilization.
I didn't.
Okay. The one where Archer kisses the girl.
Yes, the one where Archer kisses the girl. Yeah. Their first, which has got the prison guard from Prison Break, who's the mouth Mazarite. They go down to the pre-industrial planet and they discover that there's alien pirates down there who are preying on the population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's not my favorite episode.
That's a great one
of season 1 of Enterprise.
Yeah. Actually, I think I didn't even realize it the first time until I was reading something and I was like, "Oh,
I didn't
now
at all.
I get it." So yeah. It's okay. Chrissy, do you have any favorites?
Well, obviously the USS Janeway.
Janeway, yeah.
Yes.
That was cool.
Beautiful.
Yes, it is commanded by a latest model Janeway hologram.
That'd be even better.
I wish, but yeah, that was good. Okay. Brandon, do you have any favorites?
No, again, like this, I was just focusing on the story too much. I'm not really having time to process. I mean, like they said all the alien names, Q Continuum and Metrons and whatnot, so, but I was just focusing on the story still, so.
Okay. Well, I have a list, like I often do. So the officer that was in where a Woshakun usually is, that's a Schlurm, which is an alien species from beyond and has the really kind of crazy head.
I love that.
So yeah, that was cool. Aurelio, played by Kenneth Mitchell, got name checked a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I forgot to mention, I was so disappointed we didn't get to see him in this episode.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, I'm not sure if when they were shooting season 4, if he would have been able to, because I think even when they were shooting season 3, he was getting toward more advanced stages of the disease.
They said at STLV he does have some role this season.
Yes.
Yeah, I have here that he said he'd appear in season 4 in a very unique way, and I don't know what that means. No. So I guess we'll see. But appear in some way makes me think it's more than just a name check. Right. It's, I don't know, a hologram or something. I don't know what it would be like, but yeah, I like that they mentioned him. Let's see. So there is the Navarre ship NSS T'Pau, which is
it's
cool.
a classic ring ship design.
And it's a ring ship design, like from the 22nd century Vulcan stuff. I guess presumably NSS is Navarre science ship, maybe. So let's see what else we had. There were mentions of Latinum and Tongo, so that's always good. Let's see, we got the Akali. They had a star map that had a huge number of different things. A few of them were, I think, like Rigel, Tellar, Deneva, but there was like a giant list of ones that they had there. Let's see what else. Yeah, we mentioned the Metrons and the Q Continuum. They mentioned the Nicene from Voyager as well. Oh, so the other thing was, I think the Magistrate is saying like, "Thank Draylon, you're here," or something like that, and that actually is the kind of ruler of the afterlife. I think it was mentioned in Civilization somewhere, so that's a real deep cut. Cool. Yeah. And there is a Mask of Draylon in that shop that Garros has, the guy who's there in that civilization.
Well, as long as he didn't say thank the Malon.
Yes.
No, we never thank the Malon. Oh. Yeah, forget those guys. And then Burnham mentions Transform, so it's always nice to hear about them. I think that's it. There's actually quite a few references. There was a lot that was going on there. Mm-hmm. So
okay, users, your homework is find out if what Burnham and book we're talking about was in Wonderlands. That's your homework.
Yeah, if it is, it's not on Memory Beta, but Memory Beta doesn't tend to have things from more recent novels. So
purposely,
I don't know.
I think.
Yeah. Chrissy, search through your ebook for the word Unla.
Actually, I'd do that.
No, it's okay. It's probably not there. Okay. Anyway, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about this Discovery episode. It was great having you on the podcast. So tell our listeners where they can find you online if they'd like to connect with you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking about this episode with you. If anybody wants to continue the conversation, you can find me on Twitter at Alexander T. Perry. And thank you for plugging up top. Weekly Trek is my weekly Star Trek news podcast, and you can find that on Twitter at Weekly Trek, or on all the same podcast platforms you can find this fine podcast.
Okay, awesome. Thanks again for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Chrissy, where can people find you when they're not telling you that there's much to admire about you, but also things to improve upon? That's what Tarkus says to Stamets. It's not a knock on you.
You know what? That's kind of true, though. We all have things we could improve upon, right? But we should also always.
That didn't come across the way I wanted it.
No, I know what you meant with it, but I'm taking it at a. We should be positive about ourselves, but also recognize that we might have areas that need work. I think that's healthy.
Well, okay.
Something.
Where can people find you?
All right. So, in addition to here on Infinite Diversity, you can find me on History with the Szilagys here on UFP Network. That is a twice-weekly history podcast I do with my fellow historian partner, Jason. And I'm happy to chat about all of our shows in the Federation Council Chambers on Facebook. And I'm on Twitter at The Goddess Livia, that's TheGoddessLivia, where I tweet about Star Trek history and leftist politics.
All right. And Brandon, where can people find you when you're not wondering why someone else has called you out for having really the strangest feet?
I got big feet, so people are always commenting on my feet. So I feel you, Saru. I feel you. You could find
that's really
me
rude.
No comment.
You could find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. I'm back and making some tweets that have gotten some good responses. I've been happy with a few of them here. I just tweeted about my recent wallpaper change on my iPad, and I got like 800 likes on it or something like that.
Oh my god!
Wow.
That's great. Was it Star Trek wallpaper?
It was. It was actually a screen cap from the other Star Trek thing I'm super excited about, which is the Director's Edition 4K that's coming.
Yeah.
And I just took one of the screen caps here. I'll show you. I don't know.
For the motion picture, yeah.
From the motion picture
here.
Yes.
Ah, nice.
And it's got last I checked, it was like 800 likes or something like that. It's bonkers.
That's awesome.
So, you can find me there. And then I got a couple podcasts. One is called Franchise Fatigue, which is all about movies, remakes, and sequels. And we're smack dab in the middle of our series on The Matrix and eagerly anticipating Matrix Resurrections. And then my other podcast, Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, where I cover all of Hitch's films in chronological order. And I was recently on a live episode of the Hitchcock Geek Facebook page. They did a Facebook Live event, and I was on for about half an hour, 45 minutes, just talking Hitchcock with Joel Guns, and that was
That's great. What was it like doing something live? I've done it a couple times for Star Trek, and it's a totally different experience.
It was good, but I think he had a glitch in the system, and it didn't go to Facebook properly, so I don't think it had to be watched it live. I think.
No!
So because we had zero interaction and whatnot, and I checked, and it looked like there was an issue with it. But
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could do our show live one day for patrons or something like that. So
maybe.
Justin, where can people find you when you're after you've suddenly developed emotions?
Yeah, it just happened yesterday. What I've been expressing to you all this time that we've been podcasting, those were simulated emotions. Now I have real, genuine, human-generated emotions, and it's a lot to catch up to. I'm holding it together, though.
You can find me on.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch out for my human emotions. I seem to only be programmed for being neutral or angry, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with it. Anyway,
Evil
you
twin
can find me on Twitter.
You,
Hey. Anger is a very productive emotion.
Productive emotion, yes. Next time on Discovery, everyone gets angry and it's really cathartic, and then they have to sleep for a week because it's really exhausting. Okay, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at TrekFan4747, where I tweet about nothing but Star Trek. And you can find me on Facebook in our group, the Federation Council Chambers, where you can talk about this and any of our UFP episodes. I hope you will join us there and not be very angry with us, please. Thank you.
And if you are angry with us, don't yell in our face.
That sound that came out of Saru, I don't know. That didn't sound like what I expect out of Doug Jones or a Kelpian. Anyway, Brandon, tell our listeners, if somehow they're still listening, about the other shows we have on the network.
Join Amy Nelson and Mark White discussing all good things, covering all Star Trek all the time. Rhea Papageorgiou, Kevin Scharf, Amy Nelson, and Joe Keegan cover TNG only aboard the Galaxy class. And Who Wouldn't Want to Be a Kid Again? Join Chris Tribuzio, Patrick Devlin, and Casey Pettitt as they talk all things under the Disney umbrella with Mickey's Marvels, and they should be returning from their hiatus very soon. Take a stroll through Star City, discovering all things that make Arrow Arrow with Lance Laster and Covante Chillis on Always Hold On to Arrow, and dive into some cryptozoology with Ken Tripp and Zach Moore as they take a lighthearted and fun look at the cultural phenomenon of Bigfoot on Sasquatch. I love that show. I don't care enough about Sasquatch to actually watch or read what they're talking about, but I do love listening to them talk.
I love listening to them talk about it. I'm like, it's great you took the time to read this book or watch this thing. I'm just listening, Yeah, it's pretty great. So thanks, Zach and Ken, for doing the work so we don't have to, and delighting us with your commentary. Okay, well, thank you very much for tuning in to Infinite Diversity. Thank you to our executive producers, Ken Tripp, Tony Robinson, and Zach Moore. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music and Tony Robinson for the awesome show art. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and please subscribe. If you want to reach out, you can find the network on Twitter at UFP Earth or our show specifically at IDIC Podcast. You can also talk about any and all of the UFP podcasts in our Facebook group called the Federation Council Chambers, or you can email us at infinitediversity@ufp.earth. On the next episode, we'll be talking about Episode 6 of Season 4 of Discovery, whose name we don't know quite yet, but which I hope will be called This One's All About Zora. Until then, peace and long life.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.
Gets duplicated.
Yeah. I do at some point, if they are going to wrestle with sentience here, we need at least a passing mention of the precedent of Maddox v. Data. Excuse me. I'm going to do that over again. If they are going
What's
to...
What's that, Pulaski?
Huh? Yes, exactly. I don't know.
I said, what's that, Pulaski?
Yeah, I know. Oh. I do make a point in my life of saying data when I'm not referring to that Brent Spiner character, and that's what anyway. Okay.
So, Chrissie, how are you doing today, knowing this is the closest you've come to killing us all?
I'm a little freaked out, but I'm glad that it did not happen all that way. All that way.
I mean,
makes sense. But yeah, I'm glad that as close as we got, it did not actually happen.
Yeah.
I'll stop you for a moment. It is not letting me start the recording, the background recording.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We'll just start it from here, and it's fine.
Oh, sorry. You mean the Zoom recording? Yeah.
So you just got to.
That's fine. You can
give me permission.
I'll just.
Okay, so we're.
Yeah. So it's
just a little bit.
But I'll just do it over again.
Are you sure?
That's fine.
I'm sorry, Alex. We're just a bunch of fucking amateurs. I'm so
No,
sorry.
don't worry about it. Do not worry about it.